It's the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Welcome to another episode of Sports Report Saturday. Of course, we come to you each and every week with the news and tidbits throughout the world of Waller County, Texas, and beyond for as high school and college athletics are concerned. Today will be no exception to the rule. You can always follow me on Twitter at The Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And don't forget to visit our website at obnradio.com. Without any further delay, we'll jump into this week's episode. Well, the Waller Bulldogs, Hempstead Bobcats, and the Royal Falcons are not in playoff mode this year, but we do have some special bonus coverage with Coach Gene Johnson in the local areas of 5A and 6A. And we'll jump right into that as soon as we come back from this break. The Open Mic Broadcast Network would like to take this time to recognize its sponsors and underwriters: Attorney Lee Van Richardson, Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union, Prairie View Athletic Club, Temple of Refuge Ministries, Reflections Paint and Body Shop, Helping Hands Lawn Service, the Hotline Press newspaper of Hempstead, Texas, Diva Skin Conditioner, Purple Drip Daiquiri and Grill. For more information on how you can become an underwriter or a sponsor here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, our number to call is 832-213-8824. Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas. It's the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to the Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union Hotline special bonus coverage with the head football coach of the Waller Bulldogs, Coach Gene Johnson. Coach, how you doing on today, sir?
Doing great.
Yes, sir. I thank you so much for making yourself available. A little odd that we're not talking Bulldog football, but we are still talking some high school football. Playoffs started off on Friday night, and we're going to kind of do some tracking to see how things are panning out with schools in the local area. And with that being said, sir, we'll allow you to kind of give us an update on some scores throughout the local area.
Well, I guess it's high school football because there were some upsets in the first round of the playoff, which were a little surprising. I think it started off kind of tracking our future homes, and there's a chance we may end up in 6A with either that South Air district or that Klein district. Things got kicked off Thursday night with Tomball, a former Waller Bulldog district foe here not too terribly long ago. Big upset of Cy Park. Cy Park was the district champion coming out of South Air District, and expected to be the favorite there by 2 or 3 scores. And Tomball really got after them Thursday night. Ended up beating them by 2 or 3 scores. And it was an interesting note that Tomball, and then of course again last night Willis pulled off a big victory over Decaney in the first round of the playoffs. And those were 2 teams that just a couple of years ago were actually in a 5A district here with Waller, and we noted that they weren't playoff teams 2 years ago, and then they both took first-round wins at 6A level last night. So they have really brought their A game up with their programs. But Klein kind of got the nod there a little bit with big victory. The Klein Tomball district kind of got the nod with the big victory over Cy Park. And then one of the surprises, although they were able to pull out the win, Bridgeland escaped with a 1-point victory. And, of course, they've got the quarterback that's headed to Texas A&M and just a stud, dynamic player. Probably a pretty good chance that they would have been their district champions had he not missed a few games this year due to injury. But Klein Collins, that got off to a rough start against North Shore, and Escasita had some losses up front and then really kind of turned things around and were playing really, really good ball, took them down to the wire. With Bridgeland escaping 34-33. And then last night also we had Cypress Ranch and Klein Oak going, and Klein Oak was kind of a similar story to Klein Collins. I think they're a team that got better and better as the year went along, and they ended up beating Cypress Ranch by 2 scores. So, the Klein was, a couple of points away from the Klein Tomball district from sweeping that South Air side. And, of course, we've got one more matchup today there with Klein Kane will be taking on Cy Woods, and I would expect some of the weapons that Klein Kane has, I would kind of expect to see them as the favorite. So a really good chance that Klein Tomball district goes 3-1 against South Air schools.
And that's what you got to look forward to, huh, Coach?
It is. It's, if you're looking at which district to step into, the Klein Tomball district looks to be a gauntlet of a bit right now.
Yes, sir. Regardless of the short distance, you're going to have to bring your war clothes each and every week when it comes to that. Now, we also have some other games that were, I guess, near and dear as we speak right now. And how did those things shape up for us?
It's always fun to see what happens with the schools in our district. And, one of my defense coordinators from long ago, Leo Barker, when I was working with Klein Forest, he said, I don't like seeing those other teams in the playoffs and getting all this extra practice. So if they're there, I want to see them win it all and go all the way to the end. So we kind of got a habit of wanting to see the teams in our district. I'd like to see them in that state championship game. It would speak volumes about, our district and where we are. And we've got a couple candidates that are still in the mix on that. Of course, Magnolia went up to East Texas, and it's always quite an experience when you go travel to those small hometown stadiums in East Texas. They had to travel up to Lufkin last night, and they really kind of got hit in the mouth a little bit, fell behind 21-0, but then kind of came storming back and made it a 28-24 game before Longview eventually pulled away. So Magnolia is certainly a team that we were given a chance in that first round of the playoffs, a really good football team. May have kind of fell ill to the ills of having to travel and play in those East Texas stadiums where the environment can be hostile, even, I would say.
Yeah, cowbell heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They know how to support their teams up there for sure. So, and Longview is a team that's not far removed from the winning the state championship. So that was going to be a first round tough opponent for what was a pretty good team coming out of our district. Then, the team that we kind of felt like we were right there with, we were leading going into the fourth quarter 17-16 over New Caney. And had we been able to finish that quarter, we'd have been in their shoes playing Highland Park last night. And the final score of that one, I believe, was 45-17. So, but again, that matchup for teams for our district in a first-round playoff game, when you look at drawing a Longview or Highland Park, what a tall mountain that is.
Yes, sir. I'd say they say shoot me or stab me. Either way, it's going to be combat.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and then when you ride those gauntlets, you look it up at Denton Ryan, and so the path through Dallas is definitely a tough path. We did end up with two teams that came out last night and had resounding victories. I think the Magnolia West victory over Tyler Legacy was like 56-7. Kind of puts into perspective where we felt like we were in the second quarter against Mag West, where I think it was 20-14 in the second quarter, or maybe 28-14. We had a chance at interception to really close it in to be a close game at the half. And, they're an explosive team, and they showed that last night.
Yes, sir. It seems since the Magnolia West district, or not district, but program opened up, they had always seemed to want to go that extra mile to separate themselves from the traditional Magnolia Bulldog style of play. They've always been the creative trick play type, and some would even charge them as guilty as running up the score when possible. But they've always seemed to come out the gate with a chip on their shoulder.
They do. They absolutely do. And maybe it's a sign of Blake Joseph being over there where he was for a little while, because quarterback play is the thing also that, they have that chip on their shoulder. They also have great quarterback play, and then that Bilbo kid, the running back, they're able to put a quarterback running back out there that I think are as good as you're going to see in the state. And that's a pretty tall statement, but quarterbacks are so well coached, and they're always able to find a running back. Very, very tough offensively, and so then when you add that chip on their shoulder and something to prove of we're not the mothership of Magnolia, but we're going to have it hold our own. They're a formidable foe. So we got after Tyler Legacy last night, and then of course I think the one that everybody expected and shocked nobody was College Station doing so well in their first round game, and they're being the number 2, I think, team, or number 3 team in the state. They're a really good football team. It's going to be fun to see how long they can play.
Yes, sir. We always have a monitor on the home base. But when you look at this 5A, 6A district play, Coach, what does it have you and your staff say, hey, these are going to be must needs for us to work on if we want to be even in the trading factors of competition as we move up?
I think there's two things. We even talked about some as a staff last night, kind of texting back and forth a little bit. But we have got to get every one of our kids out on that track. You watch the Klein Oaks of the world and the Klein Canes in those playoff games. Team speed is something that separates them, I think, from everyone else. And so, if you're going to compete in that deal and raise our level of our program up to a playoff caliber team, we have got to be a team that can run. And it's a little bit silly, but the only way to get better at running is to run. And so we got to get them kids out there on the track and work on team speed. I think the other thing that has been kind of beat a dead horse, but we have got to get stronger in the trenches, and I'm so looking forward to off season. Our first off season here, we sent kids home at spring break, and so we didn't really to finish out with our kids in the weight room. Our second year here was more of a blend of on campus combined with online, and it was hard to get kids here consistently every day. So, we have got to get stronger inside the trenches, and so I'm looking forward to a full off season where we can. Hey, our expectations are now that things are slowing down on this. You ought to be here every day working on getting stronger. So I just think those are the interior line strength and the speed of the game with the speed of the players on the field is the things that stood out most with Klein and South Bear districts, and even watching our district go compete against others.
Now, Coach, I'm, of course, a dinosaur when it comes to my athletic days, but I was a multi-sport athlete, and, we said that back then that was good to keep a guy balanced. But as we move further and further into the 21st century, sports now have become more specialized. Do you see it now to where it's going to be required that if you're going to be a football player, you have to be a football player 12 months out the year? Or do you still advocate for the dual or multi-sport athlete, or would you prefer, or if you had a combo of sports to go along with football? I heard you mention track. Are there any other sports that you would recommend to be a combo, if you would, for that cross training during the off season for a football player?
Well, I could talk here for 20 minutes on this, so I'll try to make it brief. But I think the first and foremost thing that we tell our kids is number one, you are going to compete in a second sport. There's just too many advantages of you being out there and competing, and not getting what do they say, the idle time or the devil stories,
Yes, sir.
So it's too much of a positive for our guys who competing in other sports not to be having them out there doing so. In the sports of baseball and basketball, it's really difficult to try to make sure that they don't miss out on their strength training. And so I think, as we move forward into 6A and you grow into these competing with 6A schools, there is without a doubt a ton of kids that will specialize. And so they'll be in that weight room while another kid may be bouncing that ball on the court or fielding ground balls on the dirt out there on that baseball field. And if a young man wants to be a two-sport athlete and excel at the 6A level, he has to find the time to make up for the strength training that he's missing year-round. And I think that's probably within the last 10 years, whether it be the multi-sport athlete, single-sport athlete, we strength train year-round in the football season. We talk to our kids constantly about, hey, we lift weights to get stronger during the season. The old mindset was lifted to maintain and try to kind of avoid injury. But that's kind of out the door. I mean, during the season, we were lifting trying to get stronger. So, but if our guys aren't involved in either of those sports, baseball or basketball, then our point of emphasis for them will be, on that powerlifting team and being on that track team.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, well, I can recall, especially when it comes to baseball and football, the training of the strength conditioning is a bit different because there are different muscles that you're focusing on. A baseball player has to be more lean flexibility, where a football player, lean and flexibility will help in certain positions, But in the case of being a linebacker, it was required that all linebackers wrestled at least a semester of wrestling so you could learn how to keep combat, in position from guard play and tackle play and get those guys off of you to get to the quarterback or the running back. Do you put emphasis on wrestling for your linebackers and even some of your defensive linemen?
We don't put a whole lot of emphasis on that. Wrestling is a great sport for them, and we are absolutely supportive of them. But our strength training that we focus on, of course, we do a lot of the lifts that some people would call static or bulk lifts, but the real lifts where any athlete, whether he's a baseball, a basketball kid, or a football kid, everything you do, you need to explode from the hips and transition weight and be able to shift and transition power. And so, our points of emphasis really is that squat rack. Will be some sorts of power exercises. We have not been power cleaning the past couple of years, and that's something that we're looking at going back to and establishing the power clean. So we're looking, there's probably a lot more similarities in the level of training between a baseball, a basketball, and a football athlete than most people would realize, because we all want power and explosion. Whether you're tackling or jumping up 10 feet to dunk a basketball, whether you're shifting that weight off that back foot to hit that baseball and bring your hips through with the hit, there's a lot more similarities, I think, what we need from a strength standpoint than what people realize.
Yes, sir. And the common denominator, as I listen to you, Coach, distance running. Get that distance running in, that can kill 3 birds with 1 stone.
No doubt. Overall conditioning of the athlete is important.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're talking with Coach Gene Johnson of the Waller Bulldogs, getting our playoff roundups. We'll be talking more playoff football in the near future with the Bulldogs being in these conversations. But right now, we do thank you, Coach, for making yourself available and as I say, the insights that you're giving on not only the future districts, but the future program at Waller Bulldog High. And with all that being said, sir, you got any sleepers that you're counting on right now as we get ready for the next week's conversation?
They're certainly not sleepers, but it'd be interesting to track. I think 3 teams that are loaded with talent and just seem kind of primed for really long runs. And to me, that's College Station. Out of the Klein district, that's Klein Kane probably, and then out of the Cy-Fair district, that's Bridgeland. If there's the sleeper that maybe hasn't won as many games as people thought maybe this year and may kind of come on and get hot, I'd probably have to put my finger on Klein Oak. They've got a very, very talented quarterback in the backfield, and as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, they've got a ton of speed. They're a dangerous team. So sleeper-wise might have to be the Panthers or Klein Oak.
Okay, well, we'll make a little note of that, sir, and we'll see how dead on you all next week's conversation. Is that a deal?
That's a deal.
All right. Coach Gene Johnson of the Waller Bulldogs here on the Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union Hotline, talking Texas 5A, 6A high school football. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Thank you for joining in with us on this segment. We'll pause for the calls, and we'll break down the rest of the Saturday that is as the Panthers will head to Lorman, Mississippi.
Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union has 13 different locations to better serve you. For more information, you can contact them on their toll-free number, 855-391-2149. Or you can send an email to information@bvscu.org. The station designed with you in mind, serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas. Welcome back to Sports Report Saturday. We heard from Coach Gene Johnson on the Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union Hotline, and we thank him very much for making himself available for that bonus coverage. Well, we know it is a big weekend in the world of Southwestern Athletic Conference. The Panthers will be in Lorman, Mississippi, taking on the Alcorn State Braves, and reminding you that you can listen to that game live right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. The kickoff time will be at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, there are 2 ways that you can actually listen to that game. You can, of course, go to the website at obnradio.com. Click on the OBN Game Day link and listen that way. Or you can dial 857-777-0000. I was fortunate enough to be interviewed for the pregame show with the voice of the Alcorn State Braves. That's none other than Tall Man Radio himself, Charles Edmund. We'll play you that, and once we get done with that, we'll come back with more of today's episode.
Alcorn and Prairie View A&M. The simple formula for the Braves. They have to win the next two, and the Panthers have to lose the next two conference games, of course, which includes today's game. Prairie View will play at Texas A&M next week, and they will host Valley at the end of the month. Braves have to win out. Panthers have to lose today, of course, and at home against Mississippi Valley. Nothing else will do. Talk about Prairie View A&M. My good friend, Dr. Michael Prince of the Open Mic Broadcast Network, joins us here on the pregame show. Dr. Prince, for those who might not know, is also from St. Louis. Two St. Louisans talking some SWAC football on this Saturday. Dr. Prince, we appreciate you coming on. It's been a minute since we talked.
Yes, sir, it has been a minute. Thank you for the invite and the opportunities of spreading that Panther love across your airwaves.
You are a Prairie View A&M grad, and going into this season, if there were some coaches that were, you could say, on the hot seat, felt like it was time to go, a lot of people felt like it was Coach Dooley. Been so close, yet so far, in terms of winning the Western Division. What has turned this thing around in 2021, Dr. Prince?
Well, sir, to answer your question in the shortest form possible, Juwan Pass has been the deal maker for the Panthers' success. Now, Coach Dooley, to his credit, he has held the ship steady, but to get it over that hump, and the hump for the Panthers the last 4 years under the leadership of Coach Dooley had been obviously the Southern Jags and your Alcorn Braves.
That's exactly right. That's been a thorn in his side over the years. 2 years ago, it was a game that came down to the wire, a high-scoring game. One thing about Prairie View's season, Coach Dooley's teams, they could score a ton of points. But defensively, that was the problem. Couldn't get off the field. This defense, let's start there. What's been the turnaround with this Prairie View defense? They're top three in a lot of categories. They can get after the quarterback, one of the top teams in sacks as well as picks. This defense, they're a bunch of ball hawks.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to tell you what's going to be the ironic twist when you go back and look at the Panthers' success run or lack of success run under Dooley had been actually the run. And with the Panthers' improvement from the run control on the offense, it has created a balance, if you would. And by balance, I'm talking about time of possession, which gives the defense shorter times on the field, which you can get the maximum performance from your defense because they're fresh and they're able to be aggressive on the defensive side of the ball to create turnovers and everything else. So to be honest with you, the success of defense has been a run control on the offense.
And when you talk about the offense, it's led by Juwan Pass, a Louisville transfer. Talk about, the difference he's made. He clearly is big time, and he's made some big time plays to keep Panthers in contention in the West.
Yes, sir. When you talk about the impact of Pass, of course, coming from a Power 5 program, a lot of these guys, they'll come to a SWAC, NEAC, or let's just say an HBCU program or an FCS program for that matter, somewhat with a bit of air to them, but this man was humbled from day one. He won over his teammates instantly because he earned his way to that leadership role, if that makes any sense, because you have Connolly, who's had success, and to be quite honest with you, a lot of the PV Nation thought that he should have been the starting quarterback, but when you see the performance and the way Pass handles himself on and off the field, it's obvious that this guy was a right choice, and the right ingredient that the Panthers need to get over that Prairie View hump.
Talking with Dr. Michael Prince, runs the Open Mic Broadcast Network, carries a lot of HBCU sports from an audio perspective. Been a part of the Prairie Sports Network in years past, and it's a huge game, obviously, for the Panthers and for the Braves. Trying to stay in the conversation. Braves have to win out. Panthers have to lose this game and against Valley in a couple of weeks in order for the Braves to win the division. Of course, Alcorn has to beat Jackson State next week as well. Let's talk about this offense a little bit more. They've got a transfer in Brooks, kid from Grambling. How much is, you talked about the running game as well as the passing game. How is that balanced out? Is it a run-oriented team with 20 rushing touchdowns, or are they going to spray it all over the yard?
Well, what it does, it keeps you balanced, keep you honest if you're a defensive coordinator. Because in times past, Prairie View has been known for scoring points, but they were going to be either hit or miss. And by that, I'm saying an explosive, quick plays, couple of plays, and they're on the board. Now they're getting time-consuming and drives, which are benefiting with touchdowns and not field goals. And so with the addition of Brooks and Stewart, that tandem from the backfield has created a great balance, give you a mindset of the A-Bears and the Tuckers in times past, but these guys are doing it in their dual role, which keeps them fresh, keeps the clock moving, and keeps the chains moving as well.
And you're talking about the youth as well as the veteran presidents. Brooks is a grad student from Austin. Stewart's freshman biology major, and is a huge deal there. And we're talking with Dr. Michael Prince of the Open Mic Broadcast Network. All right, so last week against Alabama State, I assume that was a wake-up call for the Panthers. They've been cruising along. They won a big game against Southern University. It was homecoming last week, and they were down 20-10 at halftime and pitched a shutout in the fourth quarter. That's a wake-up call because every team has it. Every team gets scared. That's a scare for the Panthers last week against the Alabama State team, who is led by interim head coaches, as their head coach was let go last week.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say a scare, Charles. I would say that was the premier trap game. When you look at the scenario that was built up with Alabama State, of course, the release of their head football coach, Dr. Ely. You have an interim coach. You're playing with a new burst of energy. You're playing to try to prove a point. He's got the team fired up and motivated. Prairie View, although it was homecoming, it wasn't a traditional homecoming atmosphere. They had eliminated some tailgating festivities, and it had some of the PV Nation a little bit disgruntled, but, safety over pleasure, right? So when you look at the first half of that game, those were set up with that 20-10 deficit by a couple of turnovers and some advantageous opportunities for Alabama State to take advantage of. But when they got back, and as you mentioned, they pitched that shutout in the second half, the defense came to life, the running game came to life, which that combination, again, was able to lead the Panthers with 14 unanswered points to claim the victory. And one thing that we may mention about here on the program is that good programs find a way to win even if it's ugly. And that was one of those ugly wins that the Panthers would gladly take to set up this scenario coming up this week.
All right, so let's get your thoughts on this game. What the Braves don't want to have happen is the Panthers hoist this Western Division trophy on this field today. That's what the Braves don't want. We all know what's happening on the Prairie View end of the spectrum. What are your thoughts on today's game?
Well, my thoughts on today's game is all or nothing. And here's what I mean when I say that. This, as I mentioned, is the perfect storm, Charles. You have the Alcorn State Braves, who have been the man, going back to Coach Maynard and his Ric Flair reputation of you got to beat a man to beat the man, or to beat the man, you got to beat a man, whatever the saying is. You know what I'm talking about with the woo and all that. But when you have the still credible, pedigree of Alcorn State, you get them on their home field at the reservation, this is going to send the ultimate message, not only to the Braves, not only to the SWAC, but to the rest of HBCU Nation, that this program is legitimate and for real. Because, yes, you have 2 games to win 1, and you don't want to really mess yourself up because of the fact you made mention there's a Texas A&M game in between the Alcorn game and the Mississippi Valley game. Why they're playing that game that late, it makes no sense to me at all. But you don't want to risk your guys getting banged up and hurt and then coming limping in for the Valley game. For the most part, this team has been healthy. This team has been clicking. And to be quite honest with you, Charles, we really hadn't seen the best that this team has to offer, in my opinion. So coming here, trying to get established early and often is going to be some of the key points for the Panthers to be able to be champions from the Western Division in Lorman, Mississippi.
Dr. Michael Prince joining us here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Dr. Prince telling everybody how they can check out the Open Mic Network.
Well, we're fortunate enough we have a few ways. Of course, you can visit the website at obnradio.com, and we also have the YouTube channel where you can subscribe, I should say, and click the bell notification, and that notification is Open Mic Broadcast Network. That's OPEN, capital MIC. That's all one word, Broadcast Network.
Dr. Michael Prince, a Prairie View grad, talking about Prairie View A&M here on this Saturday. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, my friend, and go Panthers. The battle of the purple and gold.
Once again, we thank you for joining in with us on our Saturday Sports Report here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. We come to you each and every day with the Mike Prince Show, of course, Sports Report Saturday, and we have the Mike Prince Show live on Sunday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, we've heard about the Panthers, and we are projecting and hoping that the Panthers can pull off that victory. But on the other side of the football world, women's soccer, Lady Panthers could not muster up enough energy or strike force to handle the TCU Horned Frogs. Their season came to an end on last night, losing by the score of 8-0. But nonetheless, the Prairie View A&M University Panthers did complete the double task of being the number 1 seed and winning a SWAC championship, where they were able to advance to the regionals, but came up short. But Coach Covello and company, no need to hold their head down. Job well done. And hopefully they'll come back in the 2022 season and start this thing all over again with the defending of the title. Don't forget, you can listen live to Panthers football action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Kickoff right here on obnradio.com or by dialing 857-777-0000. And don't forget the 1876 After Party Postgame Show, 15 minutes at the conclusion of today's broadcast. I am going to exit stage left for right now. It's getting close to kickoff time. We want to be in position. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Thank you guys so much for joining in with us. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.